there, this is episode 11 of Starside Lounge, the wonderful and frequent DBO podcast. I'm Mastrbiggy. Joining me today is Claude Herrera.
Hey.
Duncan, or NCSU Duncan.
That's me.
That's that guy. We have Timothy, or Xenos, and Scott, whose tag I don't know, sorry.
Speedracer.
Speedracer. You said that like 3 times.
Or Guardian if you play with me on PlayStation.
So we're going to talk about a small topic, which was the Destiny 2 reveal. 2 of our reporters were there, Claude and Duncan, to see it in person. And I guess Timothy has a few questions from the forums. But let's just start with our general impressions. And Speedracer, why don't you talk about your initial impressions of the trailer?
Yeah, well, so before that we saw the Zavala background, right? Which I think was probably the highlight of the entire show, if you're asking me.
Right, it did start with a trailer that was narrated by Zavala.
Yeah, well, it started out with Zavala being found by his ghost. And the reason I love that so much is my favorite part of the Destiny lore has always been the collapse and kind of that time between the Golden Age and when the city was formed. A lot of the Grimoire stories that come out of there, like The Last Word and Thorn stuff, that's kind of in that collapse era, a bit of, a couple hundred years before the game starts. And that's where we started off with Zavala being resurrected in his plane. Apparently he was a pilot and crashed, and who knows how many hundred years later his ghost shows up and brings him back to life and shows his journey going along the outposts and stuff and building the city from scratch, the tower and everything. So that was epic. It blew me away.
I don't think you were alone in that, because they were broadcasting the audience audio, and people were losing their mind over that Zavala bit. So that was pretty cool. What's that?
It was quite good. I think in general the audience was very pumped up for this. There wasn't a lot of cynicism, and it showed pretty strongly all the way through the whole presentation, which was kind of nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna be the kind of downer of this. Not. I'm not saying I didn't like it, but considering how light Destiny was lore-wise initially, to see people freak out over these characters and that stuff was pretty neat and a little bit unexpected coming from my point of view.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was really awesome. Xenos, what did you think of that stuff?
I mean, I mostly agree with Speed there, that was probably the highlight of the whole show for me, because, and I mean, we're a group of people that are really, really into Destiny. Yeah. So that the lore was my favorite thing when I played vanilla Destiny. Like, even though it was so light, I read every Grimoire card I found. When I found it, I would literally put my controller down and go read it. And it actually sucked me in. There's a lot of complaints about it, but it was actually really good. So to see that that's actually going to be in the game instead of these kind of flavor moments that were thrown in but didn't really provide any story is super exciting. And
what the interview we were talking about earlier, was it Mark that they asked straight up, is there going to be any Grimoire? And he basically, in a very diplomatic way, said no.
It was Steve Cotton. Steve Cotton said the Grimoire won't be in Destiny 2, which I'm honestly a little sad about, but that's a whole other conversation. I liked, though, that in the reveal that we got that first trailer, so we got an idea that they were going to have more story. And then right after Luke talks to us, we got a very story-heavy mission. So it's not just going to be a cinematic that tells us the story. We're actually going to get some story during our missions in the game. So overall, I'm super excited. Just from those moments before they talked about anything else, I was already completely sold on Destiny 2. So I thought they did a great job.
to kind of go along with that, just talking to some of the Bungie guys, it sounded like they really took to heart, the criticisms about, the lack of story in Destiny. And the impression I got is that, we're going to see a lot more cutscenes and a lot more story in Destiny 2. So I'm okay with, losing the Grimoire cards, if that means that, we're going to get more stuff presented in a way that more people are going to get exposed to it. Because the Grimoire stuff,
Yeah.
I mean, you really kind of had to dig around to read all of that and take the time. I mean, I never read all of the Grimoire cards, and I'm a big old Destiny nerd, so I know the vast majority of the people probably never bothered, especially not having it not really present in the game at all. Aside from what they added with TDK.
And if you are the kind of person that likes reading that, I'm willing to bet it's going to be available the way you go to Ishtar Collective right now to read all the Grimoire. Well, the lore that's going to be in the game, some of that will be things that we go into our menu to see mid mission. Especially if we're going to believe that screenshot that I don't know if that's been confirmed or not, but there's a screenshot floating around out there. It shows a button, press circle to show lore. So even if they're not have the Grimoire in the app, I'm sure the people on Ishtar Collective and all these other fan sites are gonna type all that stuff and put it in written format online anyway.
Yeah,
interesting.
So moving on from the trailer, now the director of Destiny 2, Luke, came out and talked about their goals for this game, and then ended with a little gameplay slice of the first mission. I'm gonna go around the table and ask everyone's thoughts on that. But this time we'll start with the people who were there. So, Duncan, what did you think of the initial showing of the first mission?
Well, for starters, I guess just from being there, and it sounds like they pumped the audio from the audience into the stream. But when that Luke sort of gave the introduction of this is Homecoming, which I assume is the name of that first mission.
Yeah.
Homecoming. But that first cinematic there, you've got Cade sort of joking around, and then the Cabal come in. The moment right after the Cabal arrive and Cade pops that golden gun, the crowd went berserk. Just I mean, it's really cool. Finally, seeing the Vanguard using their abilities, their class abilities, because I don't think we've really seen them do that before, have we?
No.
Nope.
So that was seeing Cade pop the golden gun, and then the crowd just erupts, cheering. I was telling this to Claude and some of the Bungie guys. It really made me think back to watching videos of the Halo 2 E3 presentations, where the first time you see Chief, or just moments during those sort of theater experiences where the entire crowd is going ballistic. We've got this sequel, highly anticipated sequel, and something awesome just happened, and everyone goes crazy. So that was really cool, just being there and hearing that. And then that cinematic is really neat. That is such a cool way to kick off this new game. And then the mission that follows was really exciting. There's a lot of dynamic stuff going on, a lot of I say dynamic, but scripted events. But yeah, there's a lot of movement. It's a far cry from those very first vanilla Destiny missions where it's spawn here, walk over here. There's a lot going on in the environment, and also it's just really cool fighting things out in the tower.
Yeah.
That was pretty neat.
So one question that I have, what was the audience like? There were quite a few YouTubers, and I'm sure there were tons of community people. I saw some people in cosplay. I did not see Claude in cosplay, which was disappointing.
I'm sorry.
Well, he was cosplaying as Claude Herrera, so
Right.
it's really easy for him.
I thought he was Louis Wu. That's what I thought it was.
There you go. No, it was the wrong
Oh.
franchise.
Saw multiple
Wrong
Claude.
franchise. Yeah.
But no, I guess yeah, sort of getting into what it was like actually being there. So there, I guess we've got two different experiences on the podcast here. Me and Claude were there, but then I still haven't gone back and watched the Twitch replay. So like all those interviews beforehand and stuff, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, we missed all of that stuff.
But it was really cool. That place was packed. If Claude hadn't like gotten there super early and saved me a seat, I'm pretty sure I would have been like standing like way in the back, like behind somebody really tall, like trying to see, because it really was like standing room only. Like the chairs were absolutely packed to capacity,
and built for 8-year-olds. They were very small chairs.
Did they ever say, or do you have a good idea how many people were there?
Somebody said 700. I don't know if that's an accurate number.
Yeah, I thought I heard them say
I'm
somewhere
not-
that they sent out like 200 or 300 invites.
Well, so there were the YouTubers and other social influencers got yellow tickets. And those are the people that were allowed to stream. Those were the people that were invited and flown in, blah, blah, blah. They
actually got to record footage.
Right. There were easily as many, maybe more, people with red tags that were invited but came on our own. We weren't given a way down there. We weren't, we weren't allowed to record. So we weren't even. There were signs up saying "Don't take pictures of the screen."
Yeah.
But it was all gameplay that was being broadcast by the YouTubers. So it's kind of a little bit weird. But I think that the 200-300 those were the invitees. That was the yellow tags, and then there were several hundred other people.
It's interesting that they didn't let you guys record. Also, I was watching a couple of the Twitch streamers afterward. Lucky and Buttwipe, for example, were live streaming from the floor. They were in the IRL directory, not the Destiny directory, and a couple times they were told, you can't be showing the screen. So they were trying to do a good job of having their camera not aimed at the screens, but more at their faces or whoever they were talking to.
Right. I think that was the big thing, was everything was embargoed until 6 p.m.
Right.
So they knew already that the people who were recording weren't going to upload because they were that deal was already made. But us,
Gotcha.
They couldn't let us take pictures because they didn't know we hadn't signed anything.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
So I know you guys got to play Strikes, or The Strike, and the new multiplayer mode. I don't know if you guys played the campaign mission.
Yes, the same one that was shown during the reveal.
Can you walk us through that? Was it exactly what we saw? Were there some other things?
I think it was exactly what we saw. Somebody told me there was one extra bit, but I don't remember. So here's what was in what we played, and you can tell me if there's a piece that's additional. So It starts off in the open space of the tower. There's a few waves of incoming Cabal. You have to get inside of Zavala's bubble every time he tells you to, or you get blown up. Once that's clear, you run down to the speaker. You watch Ikora take down a ship and disappear off screen, and then the door that Zur stands in front of opens, and there's a little bit of fighting in an inside space. Then you go into an outside space with a lot of rain. There's a small boss fight there. And when that's over, the level's over.
Okay, that sounds like pretty much what we saw.
Yeah. I thought it was. I didn't think there were any steps that I hadn't seen on screen before I played them.
I seem to remember there only being one time you get in Zavala's bubble from what they showed.
There were 3 waves. There were 3 waves of incoming stuff, and right before each wave there was this barrage of rockets. And if you were the first time I was out like where you land when you come to the tower, and he's like, "Get in my bubble now!" And I start running back, and I'm just obliterated about halfway back, just by this wave of rockets that came flying in. So I actually feel that that's sort of a limiting thing, because you can't play it the way you want, right? You can't go. You have to stay close enough to him until you learn the when those things happen. I mean, it might have been as simple as, I killed the last Cabal, and so the next wave started. I wasn't paying close attention, but I do know I was way the hell out of safe zone when it started, and I died because of it.
When you were inside the bubble?
No, I couldn't get to the bubble.
Oh, okay.
He said, "You need to be in my bubble now," and I was,
Claude was over by trying to get
60 yards away.
Right.
Yeah, pretty much. I was trying to see if the vault was still working.
Actually, that was seriously that was one of my questions. Did either of you try to access the vault at any point?
I did.
Those towers were blown
up to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
I went up
power's
to
out.
the least damaged one and tried to open it up. But of course, it wasn't working there. Yeah, I think
that was the one question I had for this podcast was if you.
Yeah, the only
and that'll do it.
See
you guys.
Is that the bit that we played started just a little bit earlier than what the stream was like.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe they only showed the last wave, right?
Well, I'm actually frame by frame. It looks like, so you say there are 3 assaults to repel, and at 1 second it says 1 of 3. The next second it says 2 of 3, but it looks like they just spliced away a couple of those rounds.
And like when you very first start the mission, you're actually kind of around the corner, sort of near the hangar, and you kind of walk around and then up to the Tower Plaza. And I think they just kind of, if I recall correctly, they just started with you already up at the Tower Plaza.
We're already fighting. Yeah.
So it was a little bit that was edited for time, but as far as the actual overall mission, it was pretty much the same as what I recall the stream being. And Claude didn't mention earlier, but you go through that market area, and then there's a mini boss fight, and then there's a cutscene, but then there's a little bit more where you're on, where you're playing on the one of the Cabal.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah, that was in the video. Amanda Holiday picks you up and takes you up to their ship.
Yeah, and again, that was pretty much exactly the same. You play through a couple rooms there, and then you finally drop down into the one room, and it triggers the cutscene with Gaul, and then that was the end of the mission. So
right.
it was almost
I forgot about that.
Yeah, aside from a couple of things cut for time, it was very similar.
Now, were you guys able to finish the strike? Because from what I heard from some of the streamers and YouTubers, they weren't able to get all the way through the strike in the allotted time.
We watched
there were just
people
some
not
people
get
that were
through it.
Yeah. No, we played the strike twice, and both times we were able to finish it, defeat the boss and get to the end game screen there. But yeah, we were watching some other people. In fact, we were the very last group to be able to start a strike at the end of the day before they were shutting down, because they, still wanted to give us a good half hour or 20 or 30 minutes to do the strike. And we're sitting there waiting for our next turn, and we're watching this other group just absolutely struggling on the boss.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. Looked like they had it at one point, and then they died, with 5% left on him.
Did they have Claude Legacy support with controllers for this game?
Yes, they did.
Wow.
They have not changed the controller support from Destiny 1. There are no additions or subtractions that I noticed.
Well,
That's
the one
good
thing
news.
will be that extra ability you have, but that's just kind of a double tap of your circle or B button, right?
It's actually a single tap. I haven't figured out what happened to crouch.
Well, now it depends on which class you're playing. Because if you're a hunter, it's double tap.
Oh.
If it's a
Oh, yeah, because you're
hold
crouching anyway. I only got to play a hunter once all day, so I have very little experience with that. But I got a lot of time in with both Titans and Warlocks. And that new ability is really, I like it.
The Warlock one?
Both of them, the Warlock Health one and the Titan Shield one. They both at this point feel overpowered, I think.
I got the impression from the way they talked about it that like if so all three, or presuming we have multiple hunter subclasses, that they will all have that dash, but that'll do different things based on how you spec it. They did say one thing, like for the hunter, there's an option to, when you do your dash, it automatically reloads the gun you have equipped, or there's
Right.
another version that when you do the dash, it refills your melee energy.
Right.
Yeah, so the way the character screen was kind of organized was like, gone is the sort of grid layout with the circles of Destiny 1 subclasses, and this was a little more kind of stylized diamonds, kind of grouped together. So like, there was a group of like 3 or 4 that were your grenades that you could select between the different grenades. There was one that was your different jumps. So then your class ability. For us, there were 2 options there, and then it kind of felt like, so aside from those three things that you could just pick at any time, I almost got the impression that then from there you kind of pick a build. Maybe it was just the sort of demo,
Right, the dev.
demo that. Yeah, the dev version we had, and I'm sure that UI is obviously not final, but it almost felt like you can be this kind of gunslinger or this kind of gunslinger and get these 4 perks, or this set of these 4 perks.
They actually they did confirm that. They talked to like IGN Fireteam chat, and it's basically it's a build, because they wanted to make it so they could kind of make the abilities play off of each other a little bit more. And if they give you options, then it's hard to make them work together as well, is what they were saying. So
gotcha. Okay, so that makes sense. So like I said, there were options for the class ability that were separate from that set. So like, no matter which set you had, you could still choose between, like for the Warlock, you could still choose between, do you want to use the sigil that gives you healing, or do you want to use the sigil that gives you extra damage? And then the sets, those can affect that, but not necessarily change the functionality of it. It was kind of cool having the class abilities, having a new piece of the sort of sandbox puzzle, right? You go all the way back to like the golden triangle in Halo, right?
Yeah.
Guns, melee
gun. Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of cool to have another option, another action that you can do, right? Because now, if you look at the UI, you've got your grenade and your melee cooldowns, and now you've got your class ability cooldowns there too. And it was really fun, like, just in the short time that we had, like finding kind of interesting uses for those and combinations. And the recharge on the class abilities is about the same as your grenade. So it's in fact, it took me a while to start using it more often, because I was kind of like trying to save it like a super. But yeah, it was really cool, and the abilities, they're not as powerful as a super, but being able to use them, they all seem like there's neat combinations you can do. Like, one thing we were talking about, one of the Bungie guys was saying, like, he really likes to have a Titan pop that barrier, and then have a Warlock pop the extra damage sigil right there at the same time. So you've got this cover that you can hide behind, and it's almost like they took the Titan bubble and sort of split it into two things.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost like a blessing bubble.
So back when Destiny, I think it was when it was first shown at E3, maybe it was Claude and I talking to a Bungie person, but they really wanted to focus on having players coalesce and stick together, and that was the reason they had the light orbs, so that players would naturally go together and stick together. So that seems like a pretty good extension of that with these abilities.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there's
Unless
still that's still a driving force. I think I'm a little confused by the whole. We're gonna let you. We're gonna let everything be match made, even though we said that wasn't. The best way to play was to play with your friends. But I think they've just sort of generalized it to the best way to play is with other people. And
Yeah.
They've also, it seems like it's not full matchmaking. And I even got the impression the way they talked about it that for a raid, for example, if we want to, guide one or two people in a raid, I think it's limited to one or maybe two people. I don't think you can go in with 5 random people just because you're going into guide setting for that matchmaking.
Huh.
Yeah, that's,
Well,
So in
smart.
Overwatch, when you're matchmaking, it kind of has a similar system to that, where it'll try and match teams. Like if you're looking for one person to fill in, and you're a group
Right.
of 5, and you need the sixth, it's very good about doing that. And I've actually made a few Overwatch friends that way, so I have had good experience with that type of system.
Right. My
Past.
understanding is the way it's going to work is so if 4 of us want to do a raid and we need 2 more people, and we're a respected clan, we can put our clan out there and say we're looking for 2, and then other people, and it can I think it can only be solo people. I don't even think 2 people can go into that mode, but they can go in and they'll just go through a list of a Rolodex of clan tags coming up, and so they'll see the DBO clan flag and kind of a brief description of the DBO clan and what our rating is based on how nice we've been to people before. And they can choose to accept us and join our raid group or go see what the next one looks like. But I'm pretty sure that it's limited to how many people can join, and you can't just have 6 people matchmake together.
I even got the impression I think it's just 1, and I could be wrong.
I thought Luke said 1 or 2.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if that means it's capped at 2, but that's the impression I got.
One of the impressions I got, and this is more of a general thing, a lot of these things are not set in stone yet.
Right.
So it could be that he was being vague because they didn't have a number.
I'm sure they're arguing over it regardless, knowing knowing them. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually pretty excited about that. I'm one of the people that's been pretty strong against matchmaking, because I've had a lot of terrible experiences with other co-op games that have matchmaking. But
interesting,
like when they said it and announced it the way they did, it actually seems like the perfect system, because you're not gonna just be with a group of random people and one guy's like, well, I don't even know if I really want to finish this. You're not gonna get that guy, or if you do, it's gonna be the 6th guy that joins.
Right.
And you can always go find another guy. So
Right.
I liked the idea of it a lot better than let's go find 5 random people to put together.
Yeah, and they were very clear to not call it matchmaking. It was
Yeah.
the term they use as guided games, right?
Well,
Whatever.
it does seem more of a way to introduce people to the idea of playing with other people based on, like someone said, your reputation, and then at that point you kind of establish a relationship with that player. Like next time you might say, well, I really enjoyed working with that clan, let me try and find them again in this list, and then who knows, maybe I'll get inducted into the clan. So I think it's just for me it's more of a way to get players situated in a group of people who are typically more lone wolf.
I'm really curious to see how the clan integration turns out, because like the way they were talking about it, I mean, clans were in Destiny 1 in some capacity, but the way they were talking about it on the stage, they were talking about it like they weren't in Destiny 1 at all. Which is encouraging, because if they're able to make that distinction, like, no, this time clans are actually in Destiny, like for real.
Well, like, so you go all the
But
way back to Alpha. It was just the extra name on your nameplate,
Yeah.
and that's it. There wasn't even a clan roster. It was
Yeah,
only
that's
the last
right.
year or so that even the clan roster was a separate line on the roster page. But now
Yeah,
well,
right.
and they
your clan is going to accrue skill points and stuff and level up based on what
and
they
you get rewards apparently.
Yeah, that sounds really cool, and I imagine that's because there was that talk about like contributing to reward your clan's rewards no matter like what game mode you're playing, and I imagine that's also kind of how I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they're sort of incentivizing like the guided games, like so that clans aren't just pulling players in and then trolling them. It's like, well, if you actually do the guided game and that player leaves a good review, or I don't know how it would work.
Or,
but,
maybe even if they just complete it with
yeah,
that person.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So one of the coolest things about it too is going to be the individualized flags and stuff that we can have Levi draw for us. So the two big questions: what are the tools going to look like? And two, what's the size of the clan limit going to be? Because I'm really hoping it's above 100 now.
Yeah, I'm curious about the clan banners thing and how custom that actually is, because they said custom clan banners, but I don't know if that necessarily means being able to just upload a picture. I'm assuming it's more like along the lines of
the Halo Reach.
Yeah, like the emblem generators. I'm guessing it's more like that, which I mean is more than we got at Destiny 1. Like the emblems in Destiny 1, you can swap colors on.
There is that.
But if you allowed actual full, artwork, people, it's just going to be dicks everywhere. You know that.
Yeah,
that should be allowed.
I mean, well, I was thinking we just have Claude's face as ours.
Oh my god, no!
I joined that clan.
We'll just have to make Bungie just implements that like by default. They just make that the default clan banner for all clans.
So, Turn 10, who makes Forza, they do a really good job with their decal editor, and I've never seen any dicks.
Yeah, I think generally when they have those systems, don't they have kind of they have one or two people on?
Yeah, they have really good dick detectors.
They click OK.
Hot dog, not hot dog. Gotcha.
But it's something like that where the Forza thing is basically just shapes, and people are building full artwork out of circles and squares and triangles, which is really cool.
That's pretty.
Well, and that's what I'm guessing this is going to be.
Yeah.
Kind of unfortunately in some ways, but I totally understand why they would do that.
I think we have questions from the DBO folk.
Yeah, we have a few questions. Some of them are a little long. I summarize them. But I think Kermit asked the best question for Duncan and Claude, which is, was it fun?
It was absolutely fun.
Yeah, it was. Yes. It was a lot of fun. So like the campaign mission. I mean, you saw the campaign mission. It was really cool. If only just to have like a bunch of enemies to kill and try out. Like I was trying out that new Warlock Super. So like the new abilities were all really cool. We haven't even talked about the multiplayer mode yet, but I really enjoyed that. And then the strike was.
I did too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I want to hear more about that because that's one. I have watched the strikes. I haven't actually watched any of the multiplayer matches yet.
So, just before we move on to that, the strike. There was an interesting point made by somebody else who was there, who said it was way too big and spread out, and I hope that it's either going to be fleshed out more when we get it in the game, or that they're going to compress some of those spaces. And I thought. It didn't feel that way to me at all. It felt almost perfect in terms of, you have a little fight, then you run a little bit, then you have another little fight, then you get, slammed around by the grinder thing, then you jump down into somewhere else. To me, it seemed like it flowed nicely. But he was with a group. He was with two people who didn't know how to play, and he said he spent most of his time waiting for them to catch up to him. And I thought. Well, I guess in that sense, it might be too, if you're not moving at a competent pace, it might be too big. And I don't know if that's a solvable problem.
Well, and honestly, like that actually sounds like a good thing to me, because one of the things that was kind of over time I realized was a little frustrating about the strikes is they didn't feel like real spaces after you've played them enough times. They felt very built exactly for that experience and nothing else.
Right, because it was encounter after encounter after encounter.
Right. And I kind of got the feeling, even just watching it, with the more wide open spaces, it actually felt like there could actually be things going on here aside from just a corridor for me to shoot bad guys.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt. I'm hoping that it's not going to be a Halo 2 type, giant spaces you can't get to. But
yeah.
But it would be nice if some of those in between spaces had stuff going on. It doesn't have to be dangerous stuff, but just make it feel lived in, make it feel real. Yeah. But anyway, all right. So moving on to Crucible. I'm sorry, PvP. I called it Crucible to one of the people signing us up for the next open slot, and she was like, "What?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, PvP," and she goes, "Oh, okay, I'll put you down."
Is she a Bungie person?
Obviously not. No, she was one of the higher.
I wasn't sure if they were trying to rebrand.
That's where I thought that was going.
No. I don't think so.
Just one of the booth attendants, because they basically had this just one big line, and it was like, all right, who wants to play the campaign mission? Who wants to do a strike? Who wants to do PvP? So they were signing people up for the different activities, kind of as they went down the line. But no, the PvP mode was really interesting. I mean, first, the first big change, obviously, it's 4v4 now. Versus 3v3 or 6v6, which
that's pretty divisive.
Yeah, that's
it was just weird that they said all of it will be. Like, it's one thing to say we're going to a 4v4 based PvP, but Luke did say all PvP will be.
Yeah, but I'm guessing there's still going to be doubles, and I'm also guessing there's still going to be rumble. So
right, but is Trials? We know Trials is still going to be there, although it might be Trials of the Nine or something different. Is it going to be
Luke,
or is it going to be 4v4 elimination?
I don't know. That's
Luke confirmed it's 4v4.
Yeah,
it's going to be a 4v4.
Oh my god, perfect.
For sure.
Now, to be fair, we could go play 4v4 elimination right now in private matches.
Well, so I actually feel like that's going to take some of the pressure off, because and they even joked about it. It's like, I can only drag my team down by 25% instead of 33%. Anyway.
Did anyone... I just have one quick question. Did anyone else see the tanks in those trailers? Are those playable? What are those?
I asked that question, not of anybody who would answer it, but the general consensus among people who saw it was, yes, they'll be playable. The general consensus among Bungie employees is, we're not commenting.
There's a big team mode.
I hope so. I missed that. But about the Crucible, the real impression I got from it is, and other people have said this too, is it felt a lot more like Halo as far as like the time to kill, and the fact that there's not any like weapons that you're going to start with ammo that's going to dominate.
The time to kill is slower, you're saying, right?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Is that what it felt, Claude?
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd agree with that. I don't know. It felt...
all right, so because you still play PvP multiple times per week, so
that's true. So until I started using, the first two games I played, I didn't even know about the added class ability, right? The shield or the whatever. Yeah. So I never used those, and in 1v1s I was getting destroyed. I was also trying to use a scout rifle, which it wasn't a very good scout rifle. it was fine for PvE, but it didn't. I wasn't doing so well with it in PvP. But when I switched over to the auto rifle and started using the shield thing, I was melting people really, really fast. And the only reason I was staying alive is because I had cover to duck behind. It actually felt faster than Destiny 1 is. But you know, it's hard to tell from one session. I mean, I played 4 matches total, so it's really not a. And two of them I was at a disadvantage from having the wrong stuff.
Well, and you were. I was gonna say you were probably up against some hardcore players, but I also.
No, well, that's the thing. It was
press from the influencers, right? The streamers that play all day, every day, and the press were not playing in the same pools, from what I heard.
They were definitely organizing the pools, so that's quite possible. We definitely had some. So the matches that Duncan and I played on the same team, we played, what, 2 or 3 together in a row, Duncan?
Yeah.
Is that right? And we won them all, or both, or whatever it was. But there was a guy on the other team who almost carried their team to victory each time, like by himself. They had a bunch of they had 3 crappy people and 1 very, very good person who just had, you know, he had 23 kills to 6 kills for everybody else.
Wow.
That kind of thing. I don't know. So, but that's not necessarily a streamer, right? That could just be,
right.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, everyone there you were playing with was probably a fan, at least. So
right.
But so
probably played a bit.
From your albeit limited experience, you think the flow of the match and the time to kill was roughly about the same as it has been?
Yeah, I don't think it was super different. The weapons were different. The heavy weapons were way different. So they gave us access to 1 rocket launcher, as far as I could tell, and it was totally crappy. You either had to have a direct hit or land within, you know, a meter of your target to do any serious damage.
And you only got 1 rocket.
And you only got 1 rocket. But they did launch pretty quick. I mean, they did regenerate pretty quick, except that the matches were generally over almost as quick, so that's not so great. The grenade launcher was way more powerful than I thought it was going to be. It turned out to be, and it, from the people who died to it in my hands, it was way more powerful than other people expected it to be.
Well, because you got like 6 shots or something, right? It was pretty high.
Yeah. I think it was right 5 and 1 and 1 and 1 remaining. Right.
I hear right that the sniper rifles that'll be in heavy slaughter are a 1-hit kill, no matter whether it's a headshot or body shot, because they're a heavy weapon now.
I don't think that's right. I got a couple of body shots that didn't kill.
Yeah.
So I'm generally
a kind of disappointed if a sniper was a body shot was always a 1-shot. It would be silly.
Yeah, I never bothered trying the sniper rifle just because that particular map didn't have super long sight lines, and also I was sticking with the grenade launcher heavy.
Yeah, I tried it once just because I was like, I tried it once. It didn't.
There was a point in one map where like I just got wrecked by somebody with a shotgun, and it was like I was really frustrated. It's like, well, I don't have a shotgun, and I'm looking at my special slot. It's like, why doesn't my character have a shotgun? And it was like, oh right, here it is.
It's down below.
Slot. And then it was like, all right, well, I guess I'm okay with dying to the shotgun if that guy had the heavy ammo.
Yeah. Well, and how do you guys feel about that in general? Just from a conceptual point, I really like the idea of the dual primaries, just because it does eliminate that problem, especially in PvP, where you're dying to people all the time from basically 1-shot weapons. How did you guys feel about it, playing it?
I liked it, and you know, it definitely feels like everybody's playing on a little more even playing field there. Yeah. And you know, like heavy ammo was it was still spawning, on the regular intervals or like in every round, but I never felt like it was just constantly dominating the matches. Like, most of the gun battles were decided by those primary and now secondary weapons.
I did find that that on B, the heavy would spawn right before the final push, which worked out really nicely if you were defending. A lot of times we were dead before then, but if you were still alive, it gave you a chance. I don't know. I'd probably agree with Duncan's assessment there. It worked pretty well. I don't know that I like even playing fields because that just means people who shoot better than me will kill me every time. But it definitely is. It makes for a fairer game, and I didn't feel like any of the heavy stuff made or broke the game. There were a couple of times when I got a clutch rocket kill that ended the round, but there were other times when I got a super kill.
Sorry, can you say that again? What did you get?
Never mind.
But
Some type of rocket kill.
I felt like it made the battles more about like using those primary weapons better, but also like using the abilities, the grenade, melee, and the class abilities, like made that so much more important, right? Because like in Destiny 1, there are plenty of players that's like, well, I'm just gonna get my sniper rifle and then I'm just gonna try and snipe this entire game, or I'm just gonna equip my shotgun and I'm just gonna sit with the shotgun the entire game. But now it's like you can't do that unless you go and get that heavy ammo. So now it's more about like, well, you're gonna have to use your primary and then get good at using those extra abilities there. So
And that's not really any way for you to tell whether they were using what was in their kinetic slot or their elemental slot, right? Because they're all basically primary.
Yeah. As far as I could tell, those were pretty much the same. So really, it was kind of nice because I could switch between a scout rifle and an auto rifle, like just by hitting the weapon button without having to like pull up the menu and change your inventory there. So you can like basically you can kind of like pick two of those primary weapon types and always have one of each ready to go.
Yeah,
that has me pretty excited personally.
So would you say that combat in general is the encounters are more medium range because now your sniper and your shotgun are things you use way less?
Yes.
That the encounter has changed dramatically.
Yeah, I mean that's probably a fair assessment, which I think that's a good thing because like again like all the sort of abilities that's where they shine is that medium range too.
Right.
I still had people sliding in and then meleeing at close range, but I think that's muscle memory from being a slide shotgunner and
right.
When that goes away they'll be back to a mid-range.
Yeah, and I feel like melee damage was decreased by enough that just running up and trying to melee somebody was usually a very bad idea.
And they didn't let you examine the weapons, right? It was just like the little hover over.
Correct. Yeah, like pushing triangle didn't. The only thing that worked on was your subclass, so that you could go and like change what kind of grenades you wanted.
Right.
We can do that for any of the weapons or the armor. Although I think we only had the one piece of armor.
I will say I was pretty happy that I actually saw the Hunter Swarm grenade actually kill somebody in one of the clips I watched. So that's a nice change.
Don't you remember that 2-week period when the Hunter Swarm grenade was the meta because of that?
Because of the glitch.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
The mode itself was actually really really fun. I liked it. because it's like I've always liked the elimination game type, but having those two objectives, to kind of basically that they're there just to prevent any one side from just holding back and camping.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and we had Claude and I had some games that, like we had a huge comeback, and like we were down, we lost the first couple rounds, and it looked like we were going to lose the match, and then we were able to win the next couple rounds and make it a close game again. It was really fun, and I feel like the map size and that game type worked really well for 4v4 because you've got the two objectives. So generally we were sending 2 players to each objective and then kind of swapping around as you figure out where the other guys are pushing, and it was really cool. I enjoyed it. It felt very competitive, but also like the rounds were really quick. So even in the games where I was getting my ass handed to me, it was like, well, at least I never felt like I was having to watch the rest
It'll
of the
be
match
over
play
soon.
out. Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
So I liked it.
Yeah, one of the things they actually said in one of the interviews I saw is that they are actually building all of the maps purpose-built for a mode in Destiny 2. And so that one was specifically built with count in mind. And
so that sort of bothers me. I want maps to be multi-purpose.
Yeah. And I had that same thought. Especially, I think, what did Destiny launch with? It was like 10 maps or something. It was like the least number of maps that's ever launched in a Bungie game.
Let me pose a question. After you finish, sorry.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say. Hopefully, if they do that, I'm okay with that as long as they've made enough maps so that if I'm playing Countdown, I'm not just playing 3 maps. Like if they make enough maps so that any mode I'm playing in, I'm gonna rotate through, at least 6 or 7 maps. That's fine. But if they're only gonna launch with, 10 maps, so then you're only gonna play each mode on 2 or 3. Yeah, that's
a problem.
That's kind of a problem.
Yeah. All right.
So here's my question.
Yeah.
Of the Halo games, which Halo has your favorite maps?
That's
Probably
a
Halo.
hard question.
I think I'd pick
We're
Halo.
talking multiplayer now, right?
Yeah, your most memorable and favorite maps from, let's say, from Halo 1 through Reach.
The Pit and Guardian were 2 of my favorites of all time. Both Halo 3.
Midship.
I'd honestly, it's got to be Halo 1 for me.
Okay, well, you guys ruined my point, so never mind.
What was the
I was
point?
hoping for a consensus of Halo 2 because those maps were all designed with specific game modes.
I spent more time in Halo 3 matchmaking than 2, personally, and that's why I said those. But I do remember the 2 maps more than
If it's
Halo.
any consolation, I was going to say Halo 2.
There we go.
Halo 5. Wait.
Well, I'll be honest. Halo 1, I played completely
Be nice,
different
Claude.
than the other ones. Which I think is probably true for all of us because we didn't have matchmaking.
Right.
But,
That's true. Some of us went to LANs, though.
yeah.
Some of us, the older ones.
Changing topics just a little bit.
Hey.
I think I know the answer to this. But did they give any more info at all about the lost sectors and adventure side questing?
Not a word. Nope.
So
Did you try and pull it out of them and they?
I
was
didn't even get an
grilling
answer.
Steve Cotton to try and get info there, but nothing.
that stuff has
I was
intrigue.
Kept
I
it
just-
mysterious.
From Luke Smith, I just got a smile.
I was really surprised they didn't talk about that more, just because, like, that's what we're gonna spend most of our,
Well, yeah, I mean, out of
time
everything
in is.
they showed that day, those are probably the adventures and lost sectors are probably the biggest difference from Destiny 1 and Destiny 2 in terms of what the game is going to have in it.
Do you guys know if having NPCs playing with you is relegated to that first mission, or is that something we'll see? Because they do impact the gameplay, because they are providing you with orbs.
Yeah, that's true. They are. I don't know the answer to that.
I get the impression, yes, because when they were showing that adventures thing, it was that the one guy who wasn't wearing a helmet, the human with a sniper. So
And you actually see him. You see him snipe someone even.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see that. That's one thing that like I saw was missing from Destiny 1 coming from Halo. Like some of the funniest parts of the Halo campaign, where what goofy thing is the AI gonna do? Driving the vehicles around. The friendly AI, which I mean, it made sense that Destiny 1 missed that, just because that for one, that's a really complicated thing to have. So building this new game, and then also just from a lore standpoint, these are supposed to be empty worlds that we're reclaiming.
And I think actually, even that first mission's gonna have more, because if you remember later in the reveal, they had that scene with Cade using his golden gun.
Yeah. Yep.
And that doesn't really fit anywhere in what we saw. So I think they may have cut out a pretty large section in the middle of that.
Yeah, they did tell us it was only a partial run through of that mission.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, I don't want it that often, maybe in every mission, but more than none in Destiny 1 would be nice.
Certainly.
Okay. So
everyone just fell asleep for a brief moment, but we're back.
Wake up, Duncan.
I one other question. Unless you want to go ahead, Xenos.
No, I was just gonna go to community questions, so you go ahead first.
Is there anything else that we haven't already talked about that you guys may have gotten from those extra couple hours after the stream that any of us wouldn't have because we weren't there? Any other insights or tidbits?
So on the so when we were doing the strikes, the very beginning of the strike, I couldn't tell you how that's supposed to play, because every time I started, I was always going to my inventory screen and just kind of wandering around, looking at the epic class build, like reading the descriptions and investigating that, and then I'd come out of the menu, and then like Claude and whoever are like already finishing up that first objective.
Right.
So one thing I noticed is so on your armor, your equipment, there's a node at the bottom, which in Rise of Iron is like where the artifact is. But it was locked, and the label is called, I think it was called Clan Banner.
Yeah.
So, like something you'd equip, I guess, to represent your clan. That was interesting. Right above helmet, like at the top right, there was a counter for how much glimmer you had, and then there was another counter for strange dust. And the descriptions on those were basically just like one is used for like upgrading weapons, the other is for like trading weapons or like replacing weapons with other weapons of the similar ones. Like it sounded like maybe it was
really
like one material was used for upgrades, the other was used for like vendors or something like that.
Okay.
But again,
marks.
This is just based on my vague recollection of the
yeah.
of the descriptions there. So some person who was doing capturing might actually have a decent screen grab of that.
I think I remember you saying something on the forums that you can still get kicked out of your menu when loading into new.
Absolutely, you can.
Did they at least cut down on it, or am I still going to be just as pissed?
I was pretty annoyed.
Yeah, I hit that plan the campaign mission or maybe it was the strike of being in the menu and then it pops you back out. It happened to me multiple times, but I think that's just.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm super excited about you don't have to go to orbit and everything's going to be based on a map, so you can actually just walk around the map and start a patrol or start a mission without having to go to the director. But And I really wish they would have fixed it so you could have your menu 5 times.
Yep. Well,
So we have more community questions, right?
Yeah.
maybe.
So I don't know how well you'll be able to answer all these, but we'll see what you know. Mac Addict had an interesting question. We'd kind of talked about this before, and it was basically the sounds are very different, and at least from watching it, on my computer, which obviously doesn't have the greatest sound, it didn't sound as nice as Destiny 1. But I also saw a lot of people saying it sounded really good. So how did it feel, the new sounds, while you were playing?
I thought it felt good. Like, I saw that post on the forum, and I was kind of surprised because I didn't notice any degradation of sound. It felt solid to me. I wasn't actually listening for, is this really super impressive or not? But it didn't.
Right.
I was never surprised by the negative level. Uh-oh. Did we lose Scott?
Might have.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Huh.
Well,
Really
but
calling back.
to
Anyway.
jump on that, I didn't notice any difference in sounds. It sounded like Destiny to me. Certainly not a noticeable difference if there is one.
Yeah, I'm guessing whatever issues people had to do with the stream more than the actual content.
Yeah.
Bring back Marty.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I definitely especially noticed in Crucible, there's different sound balancing. Like, apparently the enemies you can actually hear better than your teammates, which is a nice change.
Really?
Yep.
So I couldn't hear anybody. We didn't have mics.
Oh.
We had headphones, but we had no mics.
Oh, not voices. Like, so like their gun sounds and their ability sounds, your allies are muted more, and the enemy ones are louder.
I
So
did not
if you-
notice that. It might be true,
Yeah.
but I didn't notice it.
Well, we actually in some ways had an advantage because I got to watch a lot of stuff while you guys were were at the event or not at home. So there was a lot of questions about the new slots. One that Narcogen had was basically about the ammo for kinetic and elemental, because elemental is just another primary slot, but does it have the same, like, were you ever running out of ammo in your elemental slot when you played the strike more often than your kinetic weapon, or was it about the same where you always kind of full on ammo on your 2 primary slots?
I never felt like I was out of ammo. I don't remember seeing a different. I saw white bricks and green bricks. I don't remember seeing a third color.
The purple bricks.
I did see
Yeah.
people in the game.
Or no, maybe
Yeah.
that. Yeah, maybe I did. You're right. No, never mind. I did. I never felt like I was running out of ammo on anything except PvP.
Okay.
But we're still
So-
not completely sure whether. I think we know, but the elemental versions and the kinetic versions, there was some speculation that maybe you could put one gun into either of those slots, and either it applies the element, or if you put it in the kinetic slot, the element goes away. I assume that's not the case, but I also don't know that we know for sure.
Yeah, they
Yeah, Shed
they
asked
were
that
all
question
filled.
too.
We didn't get to play with any of that stuff. They were all filled when you started, and there was no additions.
No deleting.
The build was actually kind of cool when you the campaign build was kind of fun. You watched the initial cutscene, and then all of your gear, all of your weapons, all your armor, everything dropped in as though it was a like an after strike gift.
Huh.
So that's how they made sure everybody had exactly the right stuff.
Oh,
Okay.
and that just occurred to me. We're not going to have that gear when we play that mission. It just occurred to me for the first time.
Well, you don't know that. Maybe you will.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible, but
I'd you're right. You're probably gonna have one gun, right?
Yeah,
It would
be
be
a
silly
custom.
though if we just went back to the Duke Mark 44 to start out, right?
Well, it's going to be the Duke Mark 45.
Right. I mean,
obviously.
I'm on board with us losing the vaults and everything, but it would be a little bit out of the ordinary if we weren't carrying a few legendary weapons on us or something. At least we would be, because they're going to require level 20, and we're going to be starting out at level 1 again, presumably.
Yeah. Well, that's something we'll have to wait and see.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's see. Blue Runner was a little concerned about there being no heavy machine guns. I'm guessing
there was a heavy machine gun. There was
well,
one.
it was a primary slot weapon though, right?
It was a minigun, right?
I guess, yeah. All right, yes.
So, I'm guessing.
No, wasn't there a machine gun? An actual machine gun?
I don't think we've seen any evidence of on any of the gameplay videos.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
unless you saw something we didn't.
Machine guns out.
No, I tried the grenade launcher, the rocket launcher, and the sniper in my heavy slot. I knew there were other things, but I didn't get to them.
The minigun did look really fun, but it was listed as an exotic auto rifle, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard to keep on target.
Yeah. And then he also had the question of, and I was surprised by this too, that there was an emote wheel of some kind.
Yeah. That was another top requested feature that I'm a little surprised isn't in
Well,
there.
I don't know that you can
yeah.
say that it's not in there just because it wasn't in this build.
Right.
My guess is we already know there's a ton of stuff that wasn't in this build, right? There was one class per race, per type, whatever.
Yeah.
So they clearly removed things. They weren't even empty slots, right? So they actually built something exactly the way they wanted it. So anything that's not there, you can't say this isn't in the game. We just haven't seen it yet.
Right. And Insane Drive kind of he phrased it pretty well, which is, in the little time you got to play, did it feel better than Destiny 1 or just new and different?
I mean, it's hard to describe that. I mean, it felt like Destiny, right? Like it.
Yeah.
Like the gunplay is just as tight as it ever was. I mean, the new abilities, were cool and added a new layer on there, especially once I got used to like using them more and remembering that I had them.
Exactly.
But I mean, at its core, I mean, it was still Destiny. It was just it was a really good Destiny campaign mission and a really good Destiny strike.
Yeah, so it was more the strike was more complicated in sort of than we've seen before. Somebody called it like a mini raid, and I don't think I'd go that far. There were no real puzzles. There were enough different things that you sort of you couldn't get accustomed to. You could, I don't know. It wasn't just a shoot a bunch of things, move to another section, shoot a bunch of things, move to another section. There were things
platforms.
Yeah, it was, you had to jump platforms, and you had to avoid things that were trying to kill you, and you had to turn stuff on so that you could, launch yourself through the man cannons, blah blah blah. And
yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Just the boss battle at the end was, we haven't had a sort of 3-level boss battle like that before. I don't know that, when I think about it, does it really make a difference? Probably not. But they were able to give us different enemies in each wave because we were on different platforms. So that was kind of fun.
Well, and just in it, it's almost like a psychological change from what I saw. Like what you're talking about. There's a part where you beat some Cabal, and then you have to turn on a man cannon to get to the next part.
Yep.
And that immediately feels better in my mind than the way Destiny 1 did it, which is if that in that same scenario, it would have just turned on after you beat the encounter, or you would have told your ghost to turn it on, and then you would fight the enemies while he turned it on. And just that simple change is actually a really nice change, because it actually feels like you're controlling what's going on instead of there's this time limit or this limit of enemies you have to kill before you can go on to the next area.
Right. And in fact, I actually thought about that at one point. So there was a switch, right? It's like a big rocker switch, and you had to interact with it, and you use the same button that you do to pull your ghost out. But so in Destiny 1, you would have said, like, have your ghost flip the switch.
Yeah.
Which seems kind of stupid, because I have a hand, I can flip it. So now it lets me flip it, which is kind of nice. I thought that was a welcome common sense change.
Yeah. So Insane had another question, which was, and we talked about a few of them, but what were some things you noticed that were locked off in your playthrough? And I'm guessing you was more talking about like features and not areas, since we obviously don't know what areas would be anyway.
Well, we've already talked about most of the features. So
okay.
I mean, so you couldn't examine any of your weapons or armor. You couldn't examine your the subclasses you weren't using.
Okay.
Well, they didn't exist. The campaign section that we went through was pretty linear. There wasn't, at no time did I feel like, oh, there's a section over there that maybe I'll be able to go in later. It was all, you knew exactly where the next step was, right? It wasn't.
Yeah.
So I didn't, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I feel like they built us a sandbox, and he's asking what's outside the sandbox.
Well, and one thing I did notice, though, I don't know if you guys saw it, was that there were mod slots. It showed mod slots in some of your armor and weapons, but you couldn't actually interact with them. Yeah.
Right.
So I think that was the only other thing I saw that we didn't already talk about. So
I didn't actually try to open up the armor. I tried to open up the weapons, and when I couldn't, I gave up. I'm glad somebody did.
Yeah, it didn't work.
That's really all the questions we had. We did have more, but for the most part, I know they're things you won't be able to answer, just because you didn't really get much more of a view than we did, aside from playing that strike and playing Crucible. So I kind of cut out the rest of them, but yeah, I'm very excited about this. One thing we didn't talk about is the game looks really pretty. It actually took me, and they're so good about it that it didn't look way different, which I thought was a good thing. But when you really started paying attention, there was a lot of really subtle details that made the game look a lot better. Like the shields on the Minotaurs and the Cabal. Oh, what are they called? The ones with the shields.
Failing.
No, not the energy shields.
Oh.
The centaurs? Is that right?
Oh, scions.
Something like that.
Scions. Yeah.
Did scions? Anyway.
Scions.
Anyway.
Yeah.
They would have like these spherical shields I saw, and then Minotaurs have like these cylindrical shields around them, which I thought was a cool effect. That was just random, but I just thought about it because we were talking about that strike.
The harpies are way prettier than they used to be. They have these gorgeous purple things coming out of them. They're just very classy looking.
That's a good soundbite.
They still blow up, but there you go. So if you thought that the PS4 Pro version of Destiny 2 looked much better than what you're used to. Man, the PC version was insane.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna pick it up.
I find it interesting that they didn't let people record PC stuff, right? They only let them record on the PS4 Pro.
Right. Yes.
All I'm hearing is how amazing the PC version looked. Why didn't they let them?
I think it was. I actually think it was a practical thing. They were already getting, it was 6 gig recordings from the PS4 Pro. It would have been what, it's 4K. It would have been 25 times that.
Okay.
Nobody had that.
And at double the frames as well.
Yeah, so the PC is completely unlimited. It's limited only by the processor you have.
Yeah.
If your processor can do 200 frames a second, that's what this version of Halo will do, of Destiny will do.
Which I don't know how that's gonna feel, especially because I still plan on playing on Xbox. It's gonna feel weird switching between 30 frames a second and 60
something
or more.
much higher. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. All I know is it looked really good. I'm not going to buy one because it's going to be really expensive to run it at its top end stuff. But it was amazing to look at. They did a great job.
They haven't released any footage either, have they? Like Bungie themselves.
Nope.
The first part of the gameplay stuff
nobody has
stream, but you see.
Right.
Maybe it's a Sony thing. Maybe they're like only show ours.
Maybe they need to have all those PS4 Pros there.
Well, it's also the PC one is not going to have cross saves, so that's something that's I was really interested in the PC one, and the fact that it's not going to have any cross saves makes me quite a bit less interested in it because I really don't want to maintain.
As I was telling you before, I was probably 5% chance I would play PC if there weren't cross saves, and if there were PS4 or PC cross saves, that would bump me up to 95% sure that I'd play well.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really blame them in a lot of ways. I feel like there is a lot of the Xbox community that's kind of feels like they've been shit on a few times. So if they had cross saves, they couldn't have them all from all platforms to all platforms, which means they couldn't have it from Xbox to PC and PC to PS4.
Right.
So there's a whole bunch of problems they'd have to solve with that. So I'm not terribly surprised, but it is disappointing.
Yeah.
Ugh.
What do we think about an unconfirmed release date for that platform? Is that weeks or is that months? Or is that a year?
I think it's probably 2 months is my over.
I was guessing around the turn of the year.
Yeah.
December.
If it's not out by the end of the year, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
I could see it coming out in early January.
Oh,
Maybe
I'm
not.
gonna have to double dip. Oh.
Well, I'll play with you on PC then, Colin.
All right.
So one thing I was really surprised by that they didn't talk about was the beta date. I was really expecting a drop on the beta date.
Yeah, they gotta save something for E3.
Think about it. They're really following the same timeline they did with Destiny 1. Reveal it, and then at E3 you show stuff and announce beta is starting this week. So at E3, I expect them to show a little bit more and announce the beta either that week or within a couple weeks.
Well, except that this reveal is a year later than the Destiny one in the timeline.
Yeah, but that original one wasn't really a gameplay reveal, right? It was the
that was what was that, 2 years before launch?
No, so the beta was the summer before launch.
So they announced it 2 years before launch, right? Officially,
yes. February 13. Yeah.
They? No.
But
no, February 13.
Okay.
The first time they showed it was at the PlayStation thing.
That's right. Yeah.
Which
And then they had
was
The first time they
February.
showed it was when they invited everybody to their offices.
right. Well, I'm talking about the announcement, not the gameplay reveal. Like
Oh,
when they announced it, which is what you're talking about.
that is what I'm talking about. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was correcting them. So
Oh,
then
sorry.
the gameplay reveal was like more than a year before the game actually released, right? Because it got pushed farther than everybody thought it was going to come out. Is that right?
Yeah.
I thought it was that E3 when they did
Yeah.
the first mission. I thought that was the first time we actually ever saw gameplay.
No, he's
don't know.
right. So E3 2013, we saw Destiny. That was the one where
Thunderlord, right?
Joe and Jason played on stage at the PlayStation thing.
Yeah. So yeah, that was more than a year before it came out.
Yeah.
Right.
'Cause
So
it was-
like this gameplay reveal is only like it's like a whole year less before the game came out.
yeah, but back on talking about the beta, I think the beta was
Yeah.
still the same timeline. They're gonna
Yeah.
show some stuff at E3 and announce betas live today. You can play it on the floor today. You can play it on PC at home today. You can play it on Xbox in 5 days. But I can almost guarantee it's gonna be the same way. As PS4 will get an extra weekend like they did last time.
You might be right, but several people said later this summer. That was the phrase I heard more than once. And early June is not later this summer.
Yeah.
That's And I'm not positive. I'm not pinning my hopes on this, but I'm not positive PS4 is going to get extra time this time. Because if they do that, they're going to have a 3-tiered release for the beta because they are also making it public at the end of it. If you didn't pre-order,
They did that last time.
No, they never made it
3 or 4 days
public.
to open it up.
Didn't
Yeah,
they? Did they make it public?
I thought they did.
Maybe they did. Maybe I'm just forgetting.
But you
I
only
thought
got like
last-
2 or
They
3
didn't
days.
announce they were going. But like the last 3 days it became public.
Yeah,
Okay. They just didn't announce it at the time.
right.
Yeah, they announced
can
at
pass out.
E3 live on PlayStation this weekend. Xbox gets it next weekend, and then during that second weekend they opened it up.
Yeah,
I think-
Xbox is going to get it in September.
I think Duncan passed out.
Duncan, wake up.
I'm still here.
Duncan has been nonstop partying and traveling for the past couple days, so
He's slept what, like 4 hours since the.
Since Thursday.
I mean, rounding. Yeah, sure.
If we round up 4 hours.
If we round up 2.5 hours, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
well, it's almost 12 a.m. for Duncan, I think. Right?
Yeah, we should probably call
Probably
it
a good time to wrap it up. If you fell asleep again, well.
Yeah. No, I'm just. Bam. The thoughts moving through my head are just moving at a much slower rate than they normally do.
Well, before we end, do you guys have any final thoughts?
Yeah, why can't this be an expansion pack?
So I've said this to a few people in a few different contexts before. So if you've heard it, I'm sorry, but I am more encouraged by the enthusiasm of the Bungie employees this time around than I am even by the gameplay that we've seen, which I thought was quite good. The fact that everyone I talk to feels like they're working on something awesome and can't wait for it to be in our hands. So before Destiny 1 came out, they were all nervous. They all thought they did a good job, but they all felt like they weren't sure how we were going to take it. And after release, we found out why they felt that way. There's none of that this time around.
They noticeably felt more excited right before taking King, and rightfully so.
Yes, and they're there again. They're way up there right now, all of them.
That is really encouraging.
It is really encouraging. I'm pretty happy about it. Unless they were all told, you better be excited or we're gonna fire you. No.
Well, I know I was more blown away than I expected to be. I don't know if I kind of forced myself to lower expectations a little bit because of 3 years ago, but I went into this pretty high. My hype level was pretty high, but even with how high my hype level was, I think the reveal just kind of verified that.
Well, and I think they chose they definitely chose, to me, the right thing to start it with, because we talked about that before, but we had a chat going while we were watching the stream, and I said after that Zavala trailer, I was like, well, that was more than I was expecting to see in this entire thing. I was expecting something more like Destiny 1, where it's like, oh, we're gonna see, like a strike, and then
Little tidbits, right?
Yeah, but actually seeing,
like I said at the very beginning of the podcast, that Zavala 3-minute storyline thing, that was the best part.
Yeah. So yeah. I think the general consensus is we're excited.
Yep, I would agree with that.
I would agree with that.
I think that's safe.
I'll play it when it comes out.
Will you though?
I'll think about buying it.
I promise to get Claude on PC at some point.
How are you going to do that?
It's going to happen.
You going to build him a PC?
I might.
It might happen at your house once, but it won't happen like
just once.
It won't be a regular thing.
Oh, why?
Because it's too much work.
Wouldn't it be easier for you to control instead of with your crab hand grip?
Oh, wow.
The funny thing is, Claude actually sits at a computer desk to play Destiny in front of a computer monitor already anyway.
So you're halfway there.
That's true.
The rest
I'm
of
halfway there.
Couches.
But it's a 4-year-old Mac
My main
Pro.
reason I prefer to sit on a couch controller. Yeah.
Your main reason is what?
To sit on a couch with the controller in my hand and not be sitting at a computer desk with a mouse and keyboard.
I don't mind sitting at a computer desk. I mean, my chair is just as comfortable as my couch. But but I do.
Vaughn takes it very seriously. He's got to get those clutch rocket kills.
God.
In his gaming chair.
You did mention that they're usually on himself.
You are a very mean person.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap this recording.
Yeah, probably.
Before Claude gets really angry.
Shoots himself with a rocket.
The secret is he's always angry.
That's true. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Yeah.
We should do another one of these, like
a proper one.
In 13 months, but
I guess we should actually officially sign off and say thanks for joining us. I'm pretty sure we'll have another one of these in a few weeks, and it will be structured better, I promise.
Well, Beorn will probably be here for that one.
That's what I mean.
That's why he's promising. Great.
First and last time I semi-host.
There you go. All right.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
All right.
They have these gorgeous purple things coming out of them. They're just very classy looking. Gorgeous, purple, gorgeous, purple, gorgeous things coming out of them.